Tens of thousands of businesses have closed their doors this evening and won't open them again for at least another 4 weeks. The only exceptions are those designated essential services. Now, that includes the likes of supermarkets and petrol stations. The lockdown is going to put enormous financial pressure on them and the workers they employ. This week, the government extended its wage subsidy scheme to more than $9 billion and removed the $150,000 cap. It's also guaranteeing the lion's share of a $6.25 billion business loan scheme. But Finance Minister Grant Robertson has repeatedly said this will not save all businesses, nor will it save all jobs. The Employers and Manufacturers Association represents 7,500 businesses directly and 20,000 across the Business New Zealand network. Brett O'Reilly is the Chief Executive and he joins me now. Brett, as we inch closer to this complete shutdown, are you absolutely clear on what is an essential business?
Yeah, kia ora, Lisa. Look, it's been a tricky 48 hours as we've had to confront the level 4 status and which businesses can stay open or not. I think the message is the government has set out in the material that is available on the COVID site and through our network the businesses that they consider to be essential and the agencies that are responsible for the various sectors. Clearly, it's quite challenging because, once you get into the supply chains of some of those businesses, you'll find other businesses that may not be immediately apparent as essential. So the message is that gives us an outline. There are ways of clarifying whether you are an essential business or not, but a lot of it will come down to, frankly, businesses being sensible, considering what role they play in the economy, and at the end of the day, it's all about trying to isolate as many people as possible. So in our case, we're providing an essential service to business, but all of our staff will be working from home as of 11:59 tonight because we've got that in place. Other businesses won't have that luxury, but if you do believe that you're providing an essential service, limit that to as few workers as possible so we can try and keep as many people isolated and hopefully protected from COVID-19.
Do you anticipate, though, that there's going to be some businesses going rogue here? Because already there is talk that some businesses say they need to save their businesses, they need to stay open, they'll stay open regardless.
Look, human nature is an interesting thing in these cases, and with the over 1,000 calls that we've dealt with on our advice line yesterday and today, we've seen some of that. What I'll say to people is just take.
In what areas, Brett? What sort of fields have you seen some of that?
I think businesses just genuinely not being sure whether they're an essential service or not. We've seen a couple of cases like the Mad Butcher case that you featured earlier in the program, where businesses feel that they are providing a service and they want to stay open. I think the Prime Minister was pretty clear today. There will be a lot of scrutiny if people are open. That scrutiny will come from law enforcement agencies, and they will be asking businesses why they're open if they don't believe that they're part of the essential service mix.
So in that case, I'm really curious what you think of this. So in the Mad Butcher case, that's what the supermarket is for, isn't it? If we're trying to minimise contacts and minimise flow through businesses, supermarkets are there.
That's right. But I can equally understand, and I know Mike Morton, why they as a business have probably got a lot of stock already in their shops, and why they'd try and offer that as a service. But I think the key message here, and the government have been pretty consistent, we want as few people as possible having to go to a workplace. And so that's a consideration that people should have. Am I maximising the opportunity to keep as many people as possible isolated? And that's, I think, our broader responsibility at this time.
Are some of them taking the mickey, though?
No, I think I don't think anyone's doing that. I think people are genuinely conflicted when you're faced with, well, do I close or do I try and keep my employees paid and try and operate? What I will say is that the government have launched a number of initiatives over the last few days and obviously last week to support business. They're pretty wide-ranging, and so the support is there for businesses. And I just urge everybody to we've had this, these discussions with businesses today, just to think carefully about whether you need to be open at a crisis time like this.
So let's talk about the wage subsidy, because again, some unions have been raising concern today that the wage subsidy is not going to the workers in the way that it should be, that some workers are still being asked to take leave over this 4-week shutdown, whether that be sick leave or holidays. What is your expectation here?
So there has been confusion over this, and obviously with the announcement around essential services, that's further complicated businesses who may have thought they were going to continue to operate, but now realise that they're not an essential service, so they don't have to. The advice we've been giving our members and the businesses that have been calling us is, if you've applied for the wage subsidy, that full amount needs to go back to the employee, and the government guidelines are asking for you to pay 80% of that staff member's salary, and that should be your goal. But clearly, for some businesses, that's a stretch, and that's where it becomes difficult as they try and balance the various competing demands for funding.
Because the temptation, isn't it, Brett? Sorry to interrupt. The temptation is to take that money into the collective pool of cash for the business rather than passing it on to the workers. So I can understand confusion is one thing, right? If we can park that to one side for a second, are there some businesses who are looking for a loophole to get around passing it to the workers?
Not on the wage subsidy. I think it's pretty clear, and all the businesses that we've been talking to, all the ones that I've engaged with, are very clear that wage subsidy has to be provided to the staff members. Where there is some doubt and obviously some difficulty is the delta between that 585 amount and the 80%.
Right. Who picks up the shortfall?
Yeah, and I think businesses are clear, and I think the government has been very clear that it is intended that businesses meet that delta themselves. And clearly there are a number of ways where businesses can access alternative funds through some of the banking arrangements that were announced yesterday, though some of those are a little bit slow to be implemented, but they're coming, and obviously you can still contact your banks over the next few days. But it's that delta where if a business doesn't have that cash available today, a number of those businesses are saying to employees, look, what about taking annual leave? What about some alternatives to us having to meet that delta? And we've been in touch with the CTU through the Business New Zealand Network and the union movement, and we understand their concerns about that, and we're working quite closely with them, and obviously keen to deal with any specific examples where we're happy, if they're one of our members, to go and have a talk to them and see if we can help them.
Okay. Ultimately, what wage earners listening to this will want to know is this. So if you could give us a clear answer. If you have not been told explicitly that the person you work for is now out of business, over this next 4 weeks, should you expect to be paid in full?
If your employer has applied for the wage subsidy, and there's a reasonable expectation that most employers will be approved, and if you have been told that, and if you haven't been told you're not going to be paid, yes, you should assume that over the next 4 weeks you'll be paid at least some of your salary, if not 80% of your wage, to use that term.
So are you saying a minimum of 80%, or it could drop below that?
The guideline from the government's clear. They expect employers to try and meet the 80% where they can.
All right. Really appreciate your time this evening. That is Brett O'Reilly from the Employers and Manufacturers Association talking there about what workers and, well, employers can expect over the next 4 weeks.